The midlife crisis is one of the challenges that men face. And it's amazing that it's not about a particular time in life. Of course, you cannot pin it to a specific time, but usually it is within a bracket, particularly when a man reaches the middle of his life. And it is seen to be, it had been identified to be between the age of 35 and 55. Usually when people live, depending on their exposure, their level of knowledge, their level of understanding, because some people mature more than the others. For those who mature very fast, they reach midlife crisis very fast, especially when they get to 35, because they are aware about achievement, they have a bigger dream, and so they are more, there's a higher tendency that they will be more quick to reassess and reevaluate. Usually the midlife crisis comes to people as a result of reevaluation, reflection of one's life, and then asking questions how far one has gone. And research has shown that usually when people cross that barrier of 35, 40, depending on the kind of life they have lived, the kind of background they are coming from, and how quick they were able to mature in their mind. And when we talk about maturity, you're talking about the attainment of full functional capacity. For those men who mature quickly and who have good exposure, good training, they probably reach there earlier. But for those who do not, who just beat about the bush and all of that, they may not quickly see the essence of their life, as it were. But at one point or the other, every man gets to that point where he seems to reevaluate his life, reconsider activities that have been done in life. And research has shown that most men get uncomfortable, not satisfied with how their life has gone, especially because of things that they feel that they have not achieved, challenges in their life. Now, so there are dimensions to the crisis, because it's a crisis because when people get to that point and there's a disparity between where they are and where they think they should be, then there will be internal conflict, and then it is that internal conflict that now escalates. And there are dimensions to it. There is the physical dimension at that point where the body system, the energy begins to go low because there are changes that are happening within the man. And so because of those changes, we find out that there are strengths you no longer have as a man and all of that. There are dimensions of professional career, where you look at your career and then you look at things that you thought you should have achieved in your career and all of that. You are evaluating that and you're seeing that it looks as if you are not where you should be, or you are not enjoying the kind of work that you are doing. You are not making the kind of progress you are supposed to make and all of that. There is a relational side, where you evaluate relationships in your life, starting from your family to friends and all that. Sometimes there can be some measure of discomfort, discontentment about the quality of relationship that you have and all that. And sometimes there may be family crisis, such as divorce and all of those things that does happen to people, and that can aggravate the internal tension that a person has. And then there could be spiritual dimension where you are not sure you are actually in sync spiritually with your God, with your creator. You think you find out that you don't really have the relationship that you should have with God and all that. And then there's that psychological dimension to it, where you just your view of life, you feel some when you think about everything in general, you seem to feel some measure of pain within yourself and all that. Now, whatever the case may be, in all of these dimensions, there are usually triggers. There are things that actually trigger the midlife crisis, and they include things like the loss of somebody precious to you. They include divorce. For some people, when they get into a stage where probably their wife divorced them, or the loss of their children, or bad relationship with children, bam, it just strikes something. Because see, People don't get into that crisis. Midlife does not need to come with crisis. Let me quickly emphasize that. Your midlife does not need to come with crisis. The crisis comes as a result of the fact that there is a conflict, there's a disparity between what you expect and what you are experiencing in your life when you are doing evaluation and reflection. Okay, and what generate that crisis is what I'm saying: the loss of the loved one, challenges at the place of work. Probably you suddenly got sacked, or you see your friends that are earning more, and then you see you're not making progress in your career, and then you evaluate and say, look, this is not where I should be, and then there's a challenge somewhere there. And then sometimes it could just be a disaster that happened around you, that will trigger it. Sometimes it's health. Some health challenges can trigger midlife crisis. When you begin to look at your health and your health is failing you, you don't have enough strength that you should have. And then sometimes disappointment from people. People have disappointed you, people that you do not expect to disappoint you, and then you have to reflect, and then you get a little bit bad now. The reality is that when you go through midlife crisis as a man, you need to know how to handle it. Some men have committed suicide because of that crisis. And because sometimes people don't know how to name it. People don't know how, some men don't know how to handle it. And then it aggravates so much that they break down and then sometimes commit suicide. Sometimes some don't even become functional at all. Some men become lethargic from that moment because they just don't see any reason why they have to keep pushing. Now, how do you handle midlife crisis as a man? First is that you've got to get your frame of mind right. You see, your attitude towards, it's not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond or how you handle what happens to you. So your attitude when you are going through that midlife crisis is much more important than the crisis in itself. And so how do you handle it? The first thing is that instead of grieving over what you lost or your past, first be grateful for life, that you are alive. First be grateful. No matter what it is, no matter what you have lost, what you have not done, what you have achievement you did not have, first be grateful to life. For life. Thank God for your life. Now, the heart of gratitude helps you to be able to be in such a frame of mind that you can reconstruct yourself, readjust yourself, and then relaunch. So first thing is that be grateful. Number two is that make up your mind that you are not going to compare yourself with other people. You see, one of the major trigger of midlife crisis is comparison. When you compare yourself with other people, then you get into crisis. So instead of comparing yourself with other people, do an internal reflection that searches the true meaning of your own life. What are you living for? What do you exist for? What did God create you for? Because you will find strength in your uniqueness. Your strength is not in another person's uniqueness, another person's shining. Your strength is in your own uniqueness. Number three is that you've got to redefine what success is to you. Oftentimes, people get into that midlife crisis because their parameter for success is wrong. They're using material acquisition, material resources, as the parameter. And so when they don't have that, they are not happy with themselves. But I'd like to say to you that, you see, it's only God and yourself that can determine success. What success is? You're accomplishing what you ought to accomplish. You're becoming what you ought to become. You're doing what you are designed to do. And so if what you are supposed to do or to become is not very clear to you, you are likely going to look at it from the lens of other people and become discontented with your own unique life. I mean, make this expression for most young people that are around me. And I say, look, if you put Professor Wole Soyinka and Dangote, who is richer? They say, oh, yeah, Dangote is richer. All right. If you put Professor Wole Soyinka and Dangote, who can afford a lot of luxury? Oh, yes, it's Dangote. All right. Agreed. But the truth is that Dangote's success cannot dwarf Professor Wole Soyinka's success. Wole Soyinka may not have the money Dangote has, but he has been able to make himself who he ought to be in the terrain that he belongs. So find exactly what's your own terrain and be comfortable within your own space and achieve what you need to achieve within your own space. That makes you to be in sync with your own self. So there's a need for you to actually rediscover yourself, find out exactly what am I living for. Because at midlife, what you should be looking at is What am I supposed to be doing with the remaining half of my life? Because it's the middle of your life that you are doing that evaluation. So you are looking, okay, the remaining part of my life, what should I be using it for? And the wisdom is not to waste your life doing things that are not relevant. Okay. Most people have actually wasted the first half of their life with youthful lust, youthful exuberances, and all of that. You see people at 40, they are still playing away, they are still doing homeboy, they are still trying to yop you around and all of that. So when they get to that 45 and all of that, the midlife crisis setting, and then they suddenly find out that they have used 40 years of their life to just play with. So what you want to now do is to say, look, what exactly is my life all about? And then you concentrate from where you are now, you concentrate on what your life should be. And that's impossible except you actually spend time in prayer with God, spending time with God, because again, only God knows what he designed you for. And it's as you spend time with him, asking him to open your eyes, that he will then show you. And that will lead me to the next thing, that to say, create a moment of solitude where you have to withdraw from the crowd and just spend time alone with God. I'm not just saying you worry now. I'm saying that you're spending time in prayer and meditation so that there will be clarity in your mind. God will bring clarity to you about what your life is all about. Then it becomes easier for you to, because if you keep running with the noise of your environment and all of that, you will not get clarity and you get more frustrated. Okay, so you need to first get detached. When you are going through midlife crisis, get detached from the noise around you and just separate yourself, reflect as you meditate before God and pray and all of that. The Spirit of God will detoxify you and bring light into you, and then you can really know exactly what is essential for you in life, and then you can move on with that. Okay, then of course it's important then that you pay attention to how you generate income, the income into your life and all of that. You have to look at, because your life will require finances, and some of the things that bring midlife crisis is financial challenge, financial struggle. So how do you earn? How does money come to you? And then how do you spend? What do you spend on? You've got to factor all of that in. Consider, okay, how can I make money? And I'm not asking you to be chasing money. I'm only saying that you want to pay attention to your income. Okay, how do you make income? And then how do you work on your expenses in such a way that there's a balance between your income and your expenses? And what I mean by balance is that you are able to afford your living expenses and the expenses of those that are associated with, I mean, what you spend on yourself, your family, your wife and your children and all that. You must give thoughts to it. Then it's also important to note that when you are at midlife, you've got to consider how to strengthen relationships in your life. You see, one of the things that make people get into midlife crisis is that they don't have healthy relationships. Um, God has designed man in such a way that he is not designed to be alone. Loneliness, isolation is one of the things that trigger midlife crisis. And you ought to know that God himself said it's not good for man to be alone. And because it's not good for man to be alone, you've got to be intentional in strengthening the good relationships in your life. One, if you have a wife, or you've got to strengthen relationship with your spouse. If you have children, you've got to strengthen relationship with your children. If you have siblings, and if you are blessed with good siblings, you've got to build solid relationship with them. And then look around you, friends, neighbors, associates that God has blessed you with. Because you see, there is no way you will not have good people around you. Your ability to discern and identify the people that God has sent to you and build strong relationship with them is very important, because you'll find out that the second half of a man's life, is the quality of it is actually enhanced by the quality of relationship that he has. Is very dangerous and terrible for a man to get to the second half of his life and he's alone. So build that. I believe this has helped you. I pray for you that you will be able to enjoy your life. I pray for you that crisis of midlife will not overwhelm you, in the name of Jesus. My name is Shegun Odiebo. This is PSO Speaks to Real Men.